camera's there.
Oh, okay.
This is just Newsmax. We're probably about ready to go live. There's a little
I assume the
downtime.
mic will pick me up.
Oh yeah, here you can.
I don't
check
need to
it.
eat it or what. I don't care.
No.
Well, some mics, they're like, get a little closer. But these days, they're so
Well, this is
sensitive.
a very primitive. I bought all this stuff with my campaign when I ran for county commissioner.
I'm trying to learn how to use some software now, and I got some mics because I think I'm going to try to start like a couple times a month podcasts because it's just another way to tell people what's going on in city council from my perspective. I mean, I put a lot of stuff on social media, but
I like that.
If I do 30, 40 minutes, something that's digestible.
Well, you're welcome to use this studio anytime.
I'm trying to learn how to.
And thank you for coming in.
Yeah.
Hey, we got Spencer Duncan live on the Henry McClure live show. And thank you for coming in. Yeah. You're live.
I'll tell people I'll go anywhere except
you
I caveat except hate groups. If you're a hate group, don't call me. Outside of that, if you invite me, whether we agree or disagree, I will show up.
And I don't hate Topeka.
No.
I am not a hate group. You know why I come down and talk?
Yeah.
I'll tell you, the real reason is voters go, well, why don't you go down to city council and say that?
Yeah.
Well, then you're missing out because I do.
Yeah. We mostly listen.
No. Well, no, I like
You can tell on the days sometimes.
I got your
when
attention.
The camera's not on.
No, I know. But I did get your attention over the citizens group.
Well, yeah. No, and I've actually made a formal legal request, and they'll get back to me.
Through who?
So, I want to see what our legal staff says.
Yeah.
And then we'll go from there. If I don't like it or whatever, I can always get it outside, but we're usually pretty. Well, I will say Amanda's a pretty straight shooter, our staff attorney.
And she looks a lot better.
She's pretty. She did.
She's got her health
She had a
back.
medical deal, and she's back. But she's very good at telling us, even if we don't want to hear it, what we need to hear.
The truth.
Right. She's a good lawyer in that respect. You may not like it, but I'm hired to tell you how it is. So,
yeah.
So that's what you need because working with people who don't know, my day job is I'm the government affairs director for the League of Kansas Municipalities. So
tell me more about that organization.
The short version is we're basically what I would call the trade association for all the cities of Kansas. We were actually created by the state legislature in 1910 because they knew cities needed a voice. If they're going to make policy decisions that impact our 625 cities, they wanted to make sure they had a voice in the building to represent them. Now, I'm a small piece of what the league does in terms of the government affairs and the legislative policy piece. We do a lot of training.
So are you the executive director?
No, I'm the government affairs director.
Okay.
We have an executive director, yeah.
Where's your office?
It's down right across from the Capitol. We are at 300 Southwest 8. Literally, I can walk right out the door.
No. Is the league...
That's their building.
Is the directors there too?
Yeah, yep. There's 13 of us on staff.
So who's the director?
His name's Nathan Eberline.
Oh, okay.
So
he's actually... How do you know Nathan? Just for working for him?
I work for him. When I started at the league, their executive director had just left, so we had an interim, and then they hired Nathan. Apparently, I didn't know this. He had worked there. This is I've been there 3.5 years. He'd worked there years ago as their staff attorney, and then he went out and did some other stuff, and then he wanted to come back and work there, so they hired him. So I did not want that job because I like my part. I don't have to do some of the stuff executive directors have to do,
right.
Which is a much more higher level, which good for him. I like being in the trenches and going up to the legislature and working with cities to develop their policies. But we do a lot of training for elected officials. We do a lot of publications, books, magazines, stuff to keep them informed of here's the law changes. Here's how to know what Coma Cora is. Here's how we do a lot of that. So there's other staff. The reason there's 13 of us is because a lot of them do what I call the real good work out with cities, making sure that people who get elected kind of understand how things are supposed to work.
So what makes a city of the first class?
Population, 15,000 plus. Wait, 25,000 plus, sorry. Yep, that's it. You just have to say, we're big. You don't have to. You can become big and not become a city of the first class, and we have some that are still second-class cities who've hit the population, but once you hit a population, and that's statutory authority by the legislature. They established that 100 years ago or whatever.
Okay, so...
But you can't drop down. So once you've gone up, there's nothing in statute to drop down if your population declines. So we actually have some cities of the second class who maybe could be cities of third class, which is 8,000 and under, or 7,000.
And what does that really mean to Joe Schmo, me?
To drop down or up?
No, just the city of the first class.
Yeah, there's 3 classes, first, second, and third. So it's totally based on population. So the bigger cities in Kansas are first class. The middle cities that are 15,000 to say 50,000 are primarily second class cities, and anything under about 14,000 is considered a first class city or a third class city.
So if you're a city of the first class, Are there certain rules and regulations you
Yes.
got to follow?
Gets stricter when you go up. So once you've decided to elevate up, there's more rules you have to follow.
And do you feel that Topeka's following all those rules?
We're following those rules as set out by the state. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, because you have to. If we didn't, we wouldn't get things from the state because they check those boxes and say if you're not following these rules, you don't qualify for our KDOT dollars. You don't qualify for these grant monies. We're not going to send you services. We're not going to let our departments help your city. So they do monitor that if you're not checking those boxes.
So is part of your job though to get more? I know that guy right there.
Oh,
That's Jimmy Rosen.
Oh.
He got fired. He's not one of the Fox scandals. Sorry, we've got a TV. I watch Newsmax on the side, but anyway, he and I are X fans, Twitter.
Yeah, yeah.
But he was a Fox News guy.
Who
that
left
got picked up by. First, he started his own channel.
Oh, that's hard.
Yeah,
it's hard to make money.
Well, I'm trying to do
right.
the same thing.
Right, sorry, you gotta find your niche.
Well, okay, so I'm sorry, I got distracted. Do you feel that part of your job as the league's government guy to get more power to the cities and take it away from the state?
No, the reverse. Kansas is a state, we actually have what we call constitutional home rule. So in 1960, the voters of Kansas put in our constitution what we call home rule local control. And that amendment basically says, I won't quote it verbatim, but the gist of it is,
no, it's okay.
When in doubt, let the local governments make the decisions at the local level for what's best for them. And at some point, it's now up to the state to decide, and me some days, what is that threshold, right? So big policies make total sense to me. Abortion, immigration, some of our school policies, right? Because we have school board. Those kind of things as examples are things that locals don't, that's fine. That's what the state's there to do. But I'll give you an example. A small example. Lawrence put into effect a plastic bag restrictions. When you go into the grocery store now, you got to take your own bag. You can't go to Dillon's there and get a plastic bag, right?
Can you get paper?
You can get paper, yeah.
Okay.
So that was passed in a local ordinance. The legislature ran some bills, which weren't successful, to try to say cities can't pass that kind of law. Our argument to them was, look, and I told them, I'm as a city councilman, I probably won't vote for that. And no other city has done it. But constitutional home rule says something at that level, the voters of Kansas said, let them elect the people in Lawrence, let them go fight that battle in Lawrence. And if Lawrence wants to have plastic bag restrictions and the businesses rebel and it goes haywire, they'll have to learn their lesson and figure it out. It's not up to the state to pass that kind of what we would call mid-level or lower level law or ban cities from doing it. So there's some gray area things that we get into that we always debate about and could go both ways, but that's kind of the obvious distinctions when we talk about constitutional home rule. But we are a constitutional home rule state, and so that is important. Ironically, Kansas has more units of government than any state in the country. And the reason is we distrusted government so much. Everyone created their own township, their own city, their own county.
Is that why we don't grow?
Right, well, maybe, right. I believe we could, it's a dirty word, but there's probably some consolidation out there that could happen.
Why is consolidation a dirty word?
Because people locally get nervous that grandma's going to lose her job or they're going to lose control. So let's just.
But hang on a second here.
Of their fiefdom, right? It's all about keeping control over your fiefdom.
At least he's honest with that word. That's a very good word.
Right. So if you're a county out in western Kansas and your whole population is less than 2,000 people, we have some of those counties, right? You still control that land. And if you suddenly have to consolidate with 4 other counties, you don't like the fact that you don't control that land anymore, right? I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but that's why it happens.
So the first time I met Spencer goes back to about 2000, my coming back to St. David's. Yeah. And before the show, I was showing him some pictures of Grace Cathedral and my grandfather in front of Grace Cathedral back in 1919.
Yeah.
But I go to Grace today. Well, I kind of had a falling out with Father Don.
Yeah, a lot of people did.
and so I feel at home at Grace Cathedral because there are prayers stuck in those bricks for me because of, my parents were married for 20 years practicing.
Yeah.
Come on. I said, did you guys practice? But
because St. David's is 60 years old now. I'm sure.
So, it was 56.
Okay. Well, and I was okay. Oh, so it's 70 years.
Yeah.
70, that's what I meant. So
Henry
70 years old.
baptized me in what was the original church, November 22nd, 59.
Okay. Oddly enough, I was baptized there when I was born.
Why is it odd?
No, I just mean 76. So it's weird to say it's a 70-year-old church, but I've gone there for 49 years because I still am a member there and I still go there.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's weird. I mean, as you get older, saying those things out loud sounds weirder.
Well, yeah, because I still feel like a kid and behave like one
Yeah,
quite
right.
often.
So it's hard for me to believe I'm almost 50. That's, it's fine. I like life, but it's just weird.
I enjoyed watching your parents give the invocation.
Yeah, that month, it rotates through a month, and so I wanted to give. So I did my wife and my son my first week. I did my two brothers, Ryan and Jero, the second week, and then I had my parents do the last week. I figured this is starting my 6th year on the council, so I've done that 5 or 6 times, which is great. And I'll bring in priests and pastors and everybody else next time. But I was like, I gotta change it up. We gotta make it a little different sometimes. So I figured, it's December, it's time for family. Let's drag my family in.
No,
they all did it willingly, but I had to convince a few of them.
They did a good job. I watched Tuck and Kathy do it.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe Kathy and I were actually youth directors.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
That was a while ago, but yeah.
So I wanted Bianca to grow up in the church.
Yeah.
I really did. I wanted her to be fed spiritual food. You know who you're following today is Father Nikolai.
Oh.
Yeah, in fact, I brought this out today. These are from the burned chapel.
I'll be darned.
I told the whole story. Have I ever told you this story?
This is from the burned chapel over at
St. David's.
Well, no, I mean I was there. My dad was a senior warden when it happened.
So
and I remember we were the first people out there standing watching it burn as the firefighters were doing their work.
Well, it's no secret to you that over my lifetime I got a divorce.
Yeah.
And I was soul searching, and I used to walk every morning, get up, and go to the chapel because it was open.
Right, it was open.
And the Reader's Digest version, 6 months of doing that every day. The one day I don't get out of bed, and I would have been there at that time.
Oh, to see or maybe catch it earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a reminder to never stop doing the right thing.
Yeah. I wish I understand why it's not open anymore. And it's not
Yeah.
a little chapel, but it was always nice to know, no matter what time of day, what time, you could go in there, go into that little chapel, pray and leave. But I get it. That then someone arsons you and life changes.
Yes.
So.
And so the other day, I went down to Grace Cathedral to go in, and I just wanted time to meditate and pray. Yeah. And like, lady goes, "What do you want?" That's what it felt like. And then Kent, do you know Kent?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So Kent, no, she goes, "Oh no, that's Henry McClure." I just talked to him a minute ago because I've got to find some space for the Orthodox Church to go to, so I can get them out of their building. And this is kind of a great conversation to have. Did you make a deal with the rabbi to
when the church burned? Yeah,
who did that deal?
Oh man. I mean, it was probably Father Don at the time, I'm guessing, and whoever their rabbi. I know they have a different rabbi now. I'm sure it was the two of them.
Well, I'm gonna go.
Probably
I
with
meet
some
him.
conversation, and I don't with whatever our vestry at the time. Actually, my dad may have. He was senior warden, so he may have had some. And then whoever, I don't know what the hierarchy is in the Jewish temple, but whatever their council is.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
But now I need to make a deal to get out of my own way as a broker. So if we move the relics out of the place on Huntoon, then I can show it better as a real estate guy.
Sure. Now,
but
we had 2 rules at the temple, though, because we do breakfast every morning at St. David's. So there were 2 rules. No crosses. There's no crosses allowed in the temple.
Okay.
And no bacon, no pork. So we did turkey bacon for the 2 years that St. David's held services at the temple. We did turkey bacon instead and no crosses. But, it was totally fine and worth it, and God understood. And so
yeah, God understands.
So those are the 2 rules.
No crosses.
No crosses, which I get. It makes total sense. So.
Well, I've got to find some temporary space.
Yeah.
And just think about that as a citizen.
They just need a little space to do their services and some side, probably an office or 2 or something.
Okay, so here's the question. What made you want to run for city council?
So a couple of things. I ran for mayor.
Yes.
When it was an open seat. Wolgast announced he was out. Nobody had filed by like April, I think.
Right.
And so I said, I'm a native Topekan. I've been here most of my life.
You don't need to have experience.
No, but then I would jokingly would tell people I can do as bad a job as anybody else, right? Give me, that's the old joke, but give me a chance. But I thought I could do it.
That's not that funny.
No, I understand. But, you gotta have some sense of humor.
Well, what did Larry?
So I ran for mayor, and at that point it was 5 people. I won the runoff along with Michelle De La Isla, who ended up. But that was a very close race. I ended up only losing by 1.5%, and I had no name recognition. She'd been on the council.
So how many total votes did you get?
Oh, I'll have to go back and look.
No, just
13,000. Because there were like 26,000 votes
so
or something.
So it was razor thin.
It was razor thin. It was 400 votes total difference. Yeah, and that was a big turnout that year. So I do that, and then 2 years later, my council seat's up. And if my council seat had that election been first, I may have run for that first. It wasn't that I was like, I got to be mayor. It was more like, this is what's open. Let's go give it a shot. And I learned a lot through that campaign. So I then ran against the incumbent, Jeff Cohen, and I've told him this story personally, and I've told others. I don't have any. Jeff's a nice guy, but I didn't think he was doing a lot but I didn't even know that. But at the time, I was the board president of TPAC,
right.
Performing Arts Center. And I had gone to him several times for some funding issues and just some infrastructure stuff. And he's like, I'm with you. I support you, Spencer. And then he went up on the days. And he voted against us every time. And I went to him every time. I said, Jeff, I'm fine that you don't support us. Stop. But I'm trying to figure out where the votes are and if I need to help you or meet you halfway. And then you're not. And so when the seat came over, I said, I don't care that we disagree, but don't lie to me as my council person, right? Don't do that.
Right.
And so I said, I'm running. And I won by 13 whole votes. So
wow.
I'm told it's the second closest election in Topeka City Council history outside of Bob Archer, who won by 1 vote when he ran. So I think on the county commission, I think he
against Blackie.
No, man, whenever the first time, I think it was Archer. I'll have to go back and check, but he won by 1 vote, and so I think I'm the second 13 votes.
Well, Andrew Howell, if you're watching this show, we want to know that.
Yeah, so it was very close. In fact, it was one of those where it dragged on until they certified because you had to wait for the first official count, then you had to wait for them to count all the ballots that came in late. Then you wait for the mail for them to then count. So at one point I was winning, losing, and then I won. So it was one of those where you're just like, oh gosh, what's happening? So then I won that race. Like 4 years later, I ran again, had a challenger. It was not as close. I won by 1,000 votes the second time. So.
What do you think about it now?
The council?
Yeah.
I think I've been helped by the fact that I've been a government affairs person for 20 years. So I think some of the things that frustrate, understandably so, when you first get there, if you don't have they haven't frustrated me as much. I also think some of the same things, the bureaucracy of it still frustrates the living you-know-what out of me. And the fact that I can't get things done quicker, there's times where I can fix your problem. People call me, and I go out, and I'm like, I can fix this. I can't fix it tomorrow. It's going to be 6 weeks. And I'm sorry it's going to take 6. I'll get it done. And so that part frustrates me because sometimes you should be able to get it done in a week, not 6 weeks. And I think we've improved. Some of us have put stuff forward to improve some of that. And some of it, you just have to keep. My stubbornness sometimes is my best asset because you can keep knocking me down. And I'm just going to say, okay, I'm still going to keep trying. You're going to vote me down? Fine. I'm going to try again. Or I'm going to try a different method. Or I'm going to keep yelling at you about this.
And I hate to say it this way, but there's glimmers of hope when I hear you speak from time to time. You know what I mean? I hate to say it that way because, I feel there's a huge disconnect. I do from what the voters. I think there's a disconnect between the voters and the elected officials, all of them.
There's a lot of them. I would argue there's less of a disconnect with me, not just because I'm me, but I'm not hard to get a hold of.
No, you're not. You're here.
In fact, I'm sure that I've missed a phone call. I'm sure that I've missed an email. I'm sure I have. But I will be honest, if you put a thing out there that said, raise your hand if Spencer Duncan has not called you back or emailed you back or talked to you, you're not going to see many hands raised. I'm the only guy who goes twice a month, and I sit at Fairlawn Plaza.
Yeah.
And you come talk to me about whatever you want. I don't care. It's not my agenda. I literally am like, what do you want to talk about? And so, and people do. They'll come out, and sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's, I want to hide under the desk, but I get it. That's what I'm there for. So I do
Well,
try
Henry
very
McClure
hard.
Live will cover that anytime you want.
That's fine. But so I do try very hard to at least let people know I'm here. And if you haven't talked to me, I'm sure I have some fault in that, but also you probably haven't tried.
So let me ask a question here. Let's strong mayor versus city manager. Where today, if it was a fresh start, what would you vote for?
I think I'm okay with the form of government we have now. I think at times, I want to be very clear about what I'm about to say, because I like Mayor Padilla. I mean, I was there for 2 years with Mayor De La Isla, and I've been there now for 4 years with Mayor Padilla. And I can tell you, he is much more aggressive in a lot of areas than Michelle was. She was a different style. She ran for Congress. She was kind of off, right? Our form of government doesn't say the mayor has no power. In fact, there's only 10 of us in this city. 10 of us. We had a councilwoman, former councilwoman, one day ask in a meeting when we had an issue, well, what power do we have? And I said to everybody, I said, the 10 of us have a power nobody else in this city has. I can put my name on something. I can write it up. I can tell you it has to be on the agenda, and I can make you people vote for it, and it can become law.
No, wait a minute. Doesn't the deputy mayor the only one that can put it on the agenda, or is that changed?
So city manager and mayor can put something directly, and we have a standing policy that if, as a council person, if we ask for it to be put on the agenda, it will be put on the agenda. Now the rest can hem and haw and vote against it, or go ask for, try to talk you out of it. But our open door, we have a pretty open policy of, you want to put it on the agenda, put it on the agenda. So I can tell you, in my now 5+ years, I've never been denied a request to put something on the agenda.
So name one piece of legislation that you slammed through.
My property tax relief.
Okay.
We now have.
What did we do?
We now have a fund where I create a local homestead program. We put $300,000 aside for it. So if you are 65 and older, and you're at I forgot whatever it's a changing income level that the state dictates every year, and you've been in your home for 5 years, you can apply for it. And as long as you qualify for those 3 primary things, we will rebate you back your city property tax.
Oh, that's cool.
Right, because we're looking for property tax relief, and I got a lot of pushback on that. It passed, and everybody supported it eventually, but initially it's going to cost too much. We need the tax money. We need all the excuses here when people want tax money, right? But that's one that I said, I'm doing it. I'm putting it on the agenda. If you guys don't like it, vote it down.
Payment in lieu of taxes.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah. Well, the state restricts some of that, which frustrates me.
Talk to me about that.
Which is good to some degree, because I don't think local government should just be able to come to you as let's say you owned a nonprofit that doesn't pay property tax, right? I don't think a city should have the authority to pick a number. You're going to pay us $20,000 a year or else, right? But right now, you don't have to do anything. It's a totally voluntary program.
Okay, so
and nobody pays into it in the city.
You brought up that the other day.
I didn't know that till recently. I thought we had some locals paying into it.
Who I like is your numbers guy. Your numbers guy that sits
Josh.
out there. Yeah,
Josh is good. And he's trial by fire. He's young. We currently have an interim finance director. He came out of KU. He's worked his way up, and we kind of have gone through a budget and a half with this guy, and he's really smart, so that's helped. But I always allow him, like, trial by fire, man, get in there. But yeah, nobody in this town voluntarily. That's not true. The state of Kansas does.
Yeah, that one deal.
So I want to give them credit.
Well, no. So how do we? See, I don't understand how Stormont Vale gets the break. Even being Episcopalian.
They're a nonprofit.
Bullshit.
It's hard for me to say that.
No, come on.
I don't set
if
the
you're
laws.
a not-for-profit, how do you have the amount of money to go name a arena after yourself?
I agree.
I mean, that should have been payment in lieu of taxes.
Right. So what I said, I think I said this in a meeting. Part of it is we have to create a system. I mean, if I just go to you and say, give me some money for pilot, you're going to be like, okay, dude. What, like, based on what?
Well, now, how do we start weaning people off of? So I'm on the board of directors of a not-for-profit.
Okay.
And we are going to pay taxes. It's a veterans project.
Okay.
And we're not going to hide behind the we'll donate. You can donate your property to us, and since some of us are real estate guys,
right,
and we'll give you the deduction, but we don't intend on keeping. We intend on paying taxes. In fact, I'm looking at a deal right now that owes a bunch of back taxes. and we're trying to make a deal with the owner. Hey, part of our deal is we'll pay those back taxes and then renovate.
The only way I can lower taxes, I mean, in a organic way, is to expand the tax base. It's not that I want more people paying a lot. I want everybody paying a little.
Right.
Instead, we have created a system both at the state levels and in some cases the local levels where we're funneling it all towards property tax, right? And I've been yelling at the legislature about this. They have got to stop exempting everybody who wants a sales tax exemption. The list of sales tax exemptions at the state level is so large that every time they do it, it comes out of the local coffers too. Well, what happens? It has to offset somewhere in theory, right? So it goes up. So now you've slid the burden over to property tax. Well, that's absurd. I want you to keep that tax base nice and large so it can stay low, not small and tall. And that is a
See,
frustrating.
all this is music to my ears because that's what I say the original economic development money was for, is to broaden the tax base.
Right. So just one last thing on the pilots, the
Yeah.
pilot in lieu. So I think what we need to do is create a matrix of sorts. Because if everybody pitched in $100 who doesn't pay taxes, that would make a difference, right?
Right.
It would. So at least let's come up with something that says, if you'd like to do pay us, if you own, I'm totally making up numbers, okay? Your building is 10,000 square feet, $250 a year, right? You own property that's this much square feet. That would be, if we have to come with fire and police, great, that's $1,000, right? I don't know what those numbers are, but something that then when I go to the Stormont Vales where I say, look, I'm not just making up numbers here. We've created something that says this much property should equate to this much in pilots. Can you help us out and do your part?
I asked people to call in. Let's see if this
Well, there you go. You never
let's
know.
see if this is somebody. Henry McClure Live. I'm here with Spencer Duncan on the Henry McClure Live show.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Good day, sir. This is Abby. Am I speaking to Mr. Henry McClure?
Yeah, did you call in to talk to
Trying to
Spencer
sell you
Duncan?
something.
Oh, no, sir.
Okay, well I'll call you back. I got your number.
Gotta say some life insurance or something. You know, I get those calls.
I don't owe any money, so it's not a collector.
No, they want to sell you. They know you don't owe any money, so they're trying to sell you something now. They're trying to take your money.
Hey, you're on the positive side. Let's call this guy.
So I think on the pilot side, we've got to be proactive and give recommendations, and then it's easier for folks like me to walk into those rooms and say, "This is all I'm asking for." And if everyone would do their part, that's this much dollars, which means I can reduce the mills to some equivalent.
You know, your dad came up to me the other day,
Yeah.
and he goes, he actually said, "Hey, good job on running."
Yeah.
And I go, okay, thanks.
It's hard to run. I've won. Running is hard, and I tell everybody in all these other cities where people don't want to run, you may lose a few. It's fine. You got to keep just plugging away and doing it.
Well,
I may lose the next one if I run. You know, it's fine.
the thing that I won through the loss was I was willing to give up my real estate license.
Mm,
Okay, so now the viewers can't see that board,
yeah.
but that's what I've got going on in my life.
Oh, okay. It's a
And-
full board, just so everybody knows. There's a
Yeah.
lot on it.
And when you get over here to people and projects, the name actually might be 3 or 4 projects.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine was here in the office the other day. He goes, "Your brain's somewhere." He goes goes over to that board, wipes it down, and just went over every deal.
Oh,
And so there's some more deals that need to be added.
yeah.
So sometimes if I look scattered, it's not from alcoholism. It's from I've got a lot of stuff going on. Hey, maybe some of it. But,
Well, you never know. Yeah.
well, you knew Drunk Henry.
Oh, I knew Drunk Henry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm almost a decade on the other side.
I don't quite know where all the bodies are buried, but I did know Drunk Henry.
But it's yeah, and I never killed anybody yet.
There's time.
But you know, I've given myself time to recover. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To me, I've got a whole nother life.
Yeah, hopefully.
But finding your way in in the new world, it's different.
Changes all the time.
It does.
I mean, the world I grew up in is so much different than the world my 11-year-old is growing up in. It's unreal. I mean, it is, and it's hard to navigate that as a parent of a fifth grader, as much as it is like, wait, this is how you do things now? Okay, I'll
So
evolve with you.
do the math real quick. So
Yeah.
the year 2000, how old were you?
Well, I'm 49 now. This is 2024, so 39, 29, 25, 26.
That's when I met you.
Okay, yeah, somewhere in there.
The whole world's changed since
Yeah,
then.
I know it's totally different 24 years later, 25 years later. Yeah.
But Tuck came up to me the other day, and he goes, "Deed in lieu of foreclosure for back taxes."
Mm,
He goes, "That was a good idea."
yeah,
You know, Rich Eckert and we don't get along
yeah,
because I don't believe in him. I don't believe in the way he does things. I want to get all the properties, every property that owes money ought to be on the auction block that meets state law.
right.
We shouldn't hold back anything. And
I don't disagree with you. One of the reasons, and it's still evolving, another thing that I developed with staff myself and put in front of the council and said either vote it up or vote it down was the land bank program that we created. And one of the reasons I wanted that was for exactly what you're talking about, because part of the reason, and I won't tag the counties in general, I'm not just going to tag Shawnee County, is, as you know, if you put something out for tax sale and it does not sell, you own it now.
well, yeah, but so
Well,
we
right.
own it.
Right, but sometimes, especially prior Rich, I haven't talked to Rich about this much, but I will at some point. Prior Rich, one of the things the county would shoot back is, well, we're afraid it won't sell, so we're not going to put it on the tax sale. Now, I don't want the land bank to own all those properties. That's asinine, ridiculous, and that is not what that program is for. But there are properties out there that we know, if we can work with developers and builders in this city, that if they go to tax sale and they don't sell, we can then say to the county, look, you don't have a mechanism to do it, but I got 2 developers who we'd like to give this to. Put it in our land bank. We'll transfer it over to them. Boom, you've got it off your tax roll. We got it back working in the system. And under state law, the land bank allows you to clear that stuff more efficiently than if you have to go to court and through all the processes. And that's why you
So
create
it's
land
like a
bank programs.
probate.
It is. It speeds it up once it's gone through those tax sales. Lets you get all the deeds cleared quicker, and that's why we did it. That's not the purpose of it. Our honest to God purpose of why I've created it and what we've stuck to is infill development in areas where if it costs you a new build house is $210,000. But if I'm in a neighborhood where the average value of the home is $120,000, who the hell's going to build there? Nobody. But if I can help reduce all your taxes and fees and land acquisition to make that house profitable for you to build, I can suddenly fill in all these holes we have across the city. That's why we developed the land bank. But to your purpose on the tax sales, that's another outlet we can have to speed up some of those properties to tell the county, put it on there. And if it sells in the free market, great. But if it doesn't, we have a backstop if it's a property we've identified as valuable to that land bank program.
I will admit, a friend of mine just said, "Shut up, Henry. Just learn to work with him."
Who, me?
Yeah, on the
Well,
land bank idea.
I promise you, when done right, and we have several cities like Pittsburgh, Kansas, and others, it really does work. You just have to make sure it doesn't become, don't do it like Wyandotte did. They took too many properties on, and it collapsed a little on itself before they cleaned it up. That's not the goal here.
Well, let me go backwards a little bit about Rich Eckert and what happened. If
Right,
running
but I
for-
just want to give you
that
the
was
program we
great.
did. That's one of the things I hope the land bank can do is help with some of.
And
those
we'll put you to
properties.
the test.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So, in a constructive way, because and one of the best things that planning has done for us is that accessory dwelling unit.
Yeah.
Because that's another thing. We got to start taking care of our elders or
Right.
vice versa.
And those units aren't going to create 10 new cars in a
No,
neighborhood.
they're
or
not.
It's for 1 or 2 elderly folks or older parents or even a kid who needs a place to live because things went right. They just have a place to live.
So, but I'm just looking at state law.
Yeah.
And what I'm angry about is that I can't. Why do I have to have somebody in government request an attorney general's opinion? Why does it?
I can't answer that one, but you're right because we always have to go to you have to get a state. People don't know you have to get a state legislature to even I think, and maybe state agency heads can request it. I don't even know. They may actually have to get a state legislator too. I don't know the answer to that, but yes, you have to get a
Well, let's-
senator or a
yeah.
representative to make the request. Now, usually you can do it, but if you can't find anybody and you're trying to get an AG's opinion, you're just hanging out in the wind saying, "I'm
Well,
just
I
trying
think
to
I
get
know
someone
how to
help me."
get it. It's also
Right.
too time management.
Well, right, and those AG opinions take a little while. They can. You got to get them in the process and get them moving.
I brought it up to Chris at the Eisenhower dinner, and Bill Rapon was sitting there. It's like, oh man, it's so hard. Politics is so hard when the elected officials really deep down are your friends.
Yeah.
And to be hard on the other side of an issue, sometimes get in the way of friendships.
You can. I always say though, you got to know the difference between when it's personal versus not personal. And I think sometimes, especially on local government, I preach this in some talks I give to other local reviews. It's one thing if I propose something or support something and my colleague says that's a terrible idea, it's kind of idiotic, here's all the reasons why. Okay, that doesn't mean they're not saying you're an idiot. They didn't like your idea.
Yeah.
Get over it. Now, if they say you're a moron, I can't believe you brought that up. Well, now it's personal and now we have a problem, right? But I think sometimes people hear the first part and think they heard their colleagues saying they don't hear it. And then once you create that division, it's very hard to.
Well, that
work
was like
through it.
when your dad said to me, that was a good idea.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I appreciated that at the moment.
Well,
you
you
know,
still got-
I just lost.
I have colleagues on that council. We disagree vehemently on some things. We just do. We're different people. They think I have terrible ideas. I think some of their stuff makes no sense. But that doesn't mean if they bring something forward that has value, I should be like, well, normally you're stupid, so I'm not supporting. No, that's a good idea. It makes sense for everybody. I can get on board with that.
Well,
Which is why I've sponsored stuff with almost everybody on the council. Councilwoman Valdivia and Alkali, we're very different human beings, and we view the world very differently. But when it comes to certain issues like homelessness, and when we were dealing with some policing issues, I don't agree with a lot of the things, but there were one or two nuggets in there that I said, well, I can get on board with that. Everybody can. Even the National Union says we should do that. So work where you can. The old, Sutton was the old Oklahoma State coach, right? And he taught Bill Self, and he used to tell people, the thing he used to tell people about coaching kids and working with people is you got to put more in than you take out. That way, when you take out, they still got something left as opposed to you just always take and take and take. And I view my job with my 8 colleagues and my mayor and even my staff is to be that person. I will support you when I can, but when I can't, I'm going to take out and explain to you why. And I think that builds a healthier relationship when you're trying to get stuff done.
Well, I read the statute, and there is no statute in there that says the county councilor is to make a determination whether it can sell or not.
Yeah.
Well, that's not your job.
Right.
You're not.
If it's met these criteria as outlined by state law, it should go to
The scales of justice need to be blindfolded. He can't be sitting there analyzing it. And the letter that I sent to Chris Kobach, he actually justified the whole thing from he was underwriting all the real estate of Shawnee County. I mean, right there in his retort,
and
he proves my fact.
I will tell you, there's been stuff since I'm on the council that's been put on the tax sale, and they've come to the city, the owners of that, and been like, please stop this. And I will say, to our credit, whoever the different staff has said, no, that's not our job. If you meet the criteria, go pay your taxes. You want to get off the tax sale? Go pay the taxes, and they'll give you that deed right back, right? I mean, that's how it works. And so I will say, at least since I've been there, we've taken a pretty clear stance that once it's on there, you should have dealt with your property. And I've lost my patience with property owners, both commercial and residential, who have just decided, I'm going to leave the property. I don't get mad at people who are actively trying to sell it or market it. Or that means you're actively, even if it sits there for 10 years, but you've really tried to market it and do something with it, I'm good with that because you're trying. But you and I both know there are properties all across this city, both commercial and residential, that have been long ago abandoned. Nobody's doing anything with them, or some owner who lives in a different state wants $2 million more than it's really even valued at, but that's what they paid for it 20 years ago, and that's what they want today, and they do nothing with it. And And in the meantime, they're behind on taxes. They've got code violations up. The you know what. We have to take I don't know if zero tolerance is the right. Maybe that's a little too, but we've got to be stricter with that because what we have created is an atmosphere of just go to Topeka, buy crap up, and they don't care. They'll just let you do whatever. And that's not what I want our city to reflect. I want people to come here and be like, if you're serious, come to Topeka. If you're not, go anywhere the hell else.
So let me ask you, how many properties right now are in the land bank?
Well, just 5 right now.
Okay.
And they're all vacant. And they were city-owned properties because we just started the land bank last year and we spent 6 months.
So
Figured
the
out.
Lawrence Bay properties didn't go in the
Oh,
land
no,
bank.
you're right. I'm sorry. That just happened. I think
Okay.
we just did 3 of it's 3 of them. And those actually were not 3. Those were 3 that were owned by a bank.
Yeah, Great American Bank.
Right. And
Yeah.
so they
Out
went
of Lawrence.
yeah, and so they did nothing with them, and so we will turn around and work
Well,
with
yeah,
the
the
developer
banks took them as
No,
collateral.
Right. And so we will turn around, and now that I think they just got put in the land bank last month. So now that we have them, we'll start to market them.
So the day they're marketed, now what's going to be the deal with the specials?
Well, as you know, anything that goes to a tax sale, the minute it's sold at tax sale, everything gets wiped
But
away.
not the specials going forward.
Not going forward.
Right.
Oh no, the city will take on those specials.
All right, so now let's go down. We're at a good segue location.
Yeah.
How's this interview going?
It's going good. I told you I will answer anything you ask. And if I can't,
No, you're doing good.
no, but I said if I
No,
can't,
thank
I'll
you.
tell you it's because I honestly don't know the answer, or if I really don't want to, I'll just tell you next.
Because I get criticized from some of the council people.
Right.
One of them in particular. You're right in what you say, but it comes off as so combative to you guys personally.
People get too defensive. I mean, that's always a problem. That's first of all, that's human nature. But second of all, once you get into politics, it's kind of like with Snowmageddon we just had and some plowing issues we had.
Yeah.
I was the first person probably who called my city manager when we put out some really terrible messaging that was not entirely accurate, as I will put it. I was the first person who called my city manager and said, "What are we doing?" I went on social media and said, "What are we doing?" And everyone who contacted me, I was very clear. I'm with you. I agree with you. This has not been handled the way it should have been. I got to triage first. Let's get you plowed. And then once we're through this, then I can go figure out and fix what the heck went on. So I could have easily said, either not taking the call or easily said, "Oh, you guys are overreacting. It was 17 inches. Move on," right? Yeah, and gotten all defensive. Our people are great. But you got to be honest when you got to be honest. So.
You know what I do is I take every call, but I also call back the people I don't want to talk to first to get it over with.
I do. So I'll give you the most extreme example. Last year, when the 5-year-old was murdered by the homeless man, we had, rightfully so, very upset people, right? And there were a lot of issues involved there. And I had phone calls with people, phone messages, people just yelling, "How could you let this happen?" And people said to me, "Did you really call those people back?" And I said, "I called every single one of them back." And I said, once the conversation was done, I felt better because they told me things I needed to hear. They felt better because we had the conversation. And even if we didn't agree totally, they understood that I didn't ignore them. And I could tell them some things about how we're addressing the issue. And we had an understanding that, call me next time. It's fine. So, and some of those calls you just end up getting yelled at.
Yeah.
My air
No,
quotes.
I get
and
it.
that's okay. It's my
I got
job
yelled at
to
as a
take it.
candidate.
Yeah, it's my job to take it. If you don't want to take some of that, it's different if it's abusive. I'm not going to let you just stand there and be abusive in the sense that call me names and belittle. That's different. But if you're mad about something and you want to have it out with me, great, let's do it. And then we'll see where we can meet. And if we can't, great. But I also try to leave it with, I know we don't agree on this one, but we might on the next one. So feel free to talk to me then, and we'll go from there, right? So.
Okay, so we're
Sorry, we got a little off.
No, that's fine. This show it's unscripted. I've never gone down there. Well, the only time I ever took notes down to city council was the worst time I ever spoke.
Yeah, you get be zeroed in on that.
Yeah.
And then the 4 minutes goes by, and you're like,
And I know time's valuable. I do better here live than I do down at city council.
Yeah.
City council is just to create a matter of record that I did go down and talk.
Yeah.
because I don't know. I may run for something again.
Lots of people watch those meetings. More people than I think people realize watch those city council meetings.
Yeah.
I mean, really,
And-
they do. There's people I didn't even think sometimes. I'm like, you actually watch? They're like, yeah, every once in a while. I'm like, I had no idea.
I'll bring up something either on this show or down at city council, and then miraculously I'll get a letter from somebody,
Yeah.
not postmarked. He keeps sending those letters about the discussion.
Yeah. So yeah,
And
there's a lot more people.
I think
with
their
eyes on
voters
them.
are a lot smarter today
Oh yeah,
than they used
because
to
there's
be.
a lot more information out there. Some of it's not great
I mean,
information, but there's more access.
Well, they
though,
want to
too.
engage.
Yeah.
And it can't really be. Well, go to our website. There's
Right.
got to be different ways
Right.
to get that information.
Yep.
Because people don't have it. But okay, so back, I'm tiptoeing
Yep.
around this tax thing.
Yep. Back to taxes.
So here's what I think on Lawrence Bay.
Yep.
I've been very vocal about that.
Yeah.
Jim had me out to his office when I was running for council, and whether or not he was in on, the stuff that I disagree with Rich Eckert about, it doesn't matter at that moment. We're
Yeah.
here.
Right.
And we got to solve the problem. And he's got all these ideas to do something, and we've given him more time. But you know something? What I think, where I'm at today, and number one, I like Jim Klossman.
Yeah.
I like that dude. You know why? I'll pick up the phone and he'll answer the phone.
Yeah. And he's done.
He's a real guy.
He's done good things for Topeka.
Yes.
So it's always important.
Well,
to,
now hang on. Let's forget about doing good things
that
for
doesn't.
Topeka.
I was gonna say
Because he
that
did
doesn't
good
give,
things for Jim Klossman.
That doesn't give anyone a pass though to not work on the other stuff they have. But I always try to acknowledge, thank you for everything you've done over here, but it doesn't mean you get a pass over here. And I just want to get that.
No,
out there.
he and I have that conversation face to face.
Right. And I view everybody who says that,
But look, what I like about him is you sit at the table and you talk.
So I mean, I can tell you my perspective on Lawrence Bay. So my problem is there's a disconnect I've been trying
No,
to
wait a
connect.
minute. Your problem. What's the solution?
Well, I'm going to tell you.
Okay,
there's only two solutions at this point.
Okay.
All right. The two solutions are you work out a deal, or they just go on the tax sale. I mean, that's where we're at.
Okay.
Here's the thing: if they go on the tax sale, we've lost everything. Every dollar we are currently owed, if they go
Okay.
to tax sale. Okay, I understand.
Okay.
But if my goal is to recoup as much of that $7 million as I can, and I can find a path with Jim to get there, first of all, there's two issues here. I cannot get rid of back property tax. So no matter what, if we ever come to some arrangement with Jim, he's going to have to go write a check for that $3 million plus on all the property tax. I can't do anything about that as a city under state law, and so put that money over here. Now what we're talking about is the other $3.5 million in the back assessments that are owed. So I have a choice. Is there a path I think I can recoup a portion of that before I have to give up and say we're at an impasse? Sorry, it's going to go to tax sale where I'm going to collect none of it. Just one last thing.
Okay.
I've been trying to find the path that gets me that $3 million, which will all go to the city first, and then a couple million on the other, and gets it moving development forward. And that's what some of us have been trying to work with Jim. But we've also, and he's heard this from us, if we hit that impasse point, we're going to walk and say, we really tried. Sorry, we got to take option B, which is not what we really want because we don't get any money back for the taxpayers. But someone will develop it, and my end goal is to get it developed. I got 100+ units out there of housing that we need. So
My
to
turn?
me, So that's, I just want to me, that's how I viewed as the two paths.
So let's look at it. This is just from a developer,
Yep.
real estate broker. This is my 45th year in real estate. And so as a developer, here's my whole issue today is the taxpayers have made the bonds whole.
Yep.
So I think it's unfair for Jim to be the only guy in the seat. And I think that we should have a public hearing about and let other developers come forward. Hey, at the end of the day, if he's the only guy, we definitely know he's got the money to do what he says he's going to do, right? But that's why you deal with guys like Jim,
Right.
because they can pay their way. But also, too, we should have I don't know what happened to Doltmeyer, and I don't know about other people that want to build homes, but I think it should be not as cloistered, a playing field.
Well, the problem with that is, first of all, I don't think Jim he's not a developer. So I think whatever path when he develops, he's going to have a developer at the table. Now, if I was a developer,
Wait a minute, he's a developer.
well, but he doesn't. He works with developers. He'll. In other words, when
He's
builds
got
his
the most
property,
important component of it.
well, right, but he'll contract with another builder developer to actually build the properties, and he'll get his cut of whatever that deal is. Now, hopefully, there's some developer out there. If I was one, I'm not. I'd say, hey, Jim, maybe we can take on some of this financial responsibility and get all this paid off if you let us have more of the back end once we build these 100+ units, right? But I don't know if that's a good deal. But here's the problem. I can't force him to sell these properties.
No, you
just
can
as
just
much as
foreclose them.
But I can't. The county can.
Yes.
Okay, so see, that's the position. That's the weird position under the state law that I'm in as a city. I can't instigate a tax sale.
Well,
I have
wait,
to rely-
wait a minute.
I
You
can
do have the right to foreclose on the specials.
We do, and we're going to have to do that at some point if we can't find a path. But I mean, I can't. But
Is
even
that
if I
Plan
do
C?
that, I guess now that you mention. But here's the problem: even if I do that,
I'm
I
glad
then
that
have to-
light bulb came on.
well, I did. But then I have to go convince the county to do one of those tax sales, right? I can't force the actual tax sale. It's just like I can't force him. Just like I couldn't say if you had some building that's been sitting there, I'm taking your property because you haven't developed.
Well, you can
I
force
gotta
the tax
work.
sale.
I got to work with the girl who's at the dance. I can't go.
No, I get
Right.
that.
You're
You're talking my language.
That's the position we are, the odd position as a city. So I think what several of us have tried to do, and I think to date, to the most part, Jim has been a pretty honest shooter with us, even if we don't like what he says sometimes to us.
No,
We have said,
I'm down with that.
Let's try to reach that deal. But if you watch some of our recent meetings, several of us were also very public about, if we can't, we're not just going to throw up our hands and do nothing. So let's go. We're trying to get that. And so there is a timeline on it.
So what? But you could go down parallel paths today, and that's what you really have to do in business. So, to be a developer, you don't have to have a nickel. You don't.
Yeah.
I don't. I can be a developer and not have zero. But every part of the deal comes from the deal.
Yeah.
Hey, I bring these people here. It's the old fable about nail soup.
Yeah.
That's what a developer is.
Yeah.
I got the nail, and we're here to make soup. And so, I think the city today ought to be going down the foreclosure path on the specials today.
I got you.
You've got a lawyer,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and you just go through the process.
I hadn't thought about Path C. You're right. That had. I mean, I had in terms of it being part of B if we couldn't get through A. Hadn't thought of it as its own.
But if you go
Path.
clear back to the beginning and go up to 10,000 feet,
Yeah.
this is definitely. Are you calling to be on the Henry McClure live show?
Hi, Henry.
Yeah. Are you calling to be on the Henry McClure live show with Spencer Duncan?
No.
All right, I'll call you back.
I think it's the same people trying to sell you that life insurance again.
Hey, I got life insurance,
They'll always sell you more.
and you should buy more.
Yeah.
So,
No, I hear what you're saying.
No,
and I
no,
just
so-
hadn't looked at it that way.
sorry for the distraction,
No,
but
you're
if
fine.
somebody called in, I've got it on here that they
Yeah,
can call
you're
in.
good. You're good.
Okay. So from 10,000 feet, what I say is it doesn't matter what we've got in, that's old money. And we just need to talk about new money. And even if you have to swallow all the loss, it doesn't matter because you want people paying real estate taxes. You want all the sales tax from all the
I
materials.
want 100 houses, right?
Yeah.
Who are going to pay 100
so
people who are going to pay property tax.
So you just forget about
because
all
again,
that.
that expands that tax base that we've talked about to hopefully shrink everybody.
But see, the
So I
path,
don't-
the
but let me
path
tell you something.
C,
But that's not the message I get though, and this is where I'm glad I'm talking.
from who?
From a lot of taxpayers who say, "Don't you dare let anyone off the hook who owes taxes. You better collect that money."
Well, no, hang on.
And so I
on.
agree with your perspective. It's getting everyone else to understand sometimes a loss is a gain. That's a hard concept
No.
sometimes.
Well, look at
for
our
people.
economic development money.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
We didn't, from whenever we approved the economic development money, we didn't grow our tax base and we didn't grow the population. So that's a loss.
Yeah.
And you've put $5 million into it every year. So look, what's going on in Lawrence Bay is a drop of the bucket. And you just hold your nose and you go forward.
You're partially preaching to the
Well, I hope
choir.
so.
It's just
That's
remember,
me.
sometimes I got to get 5 other people.
Yeah,
to
I know, but that's
agree
me.
with me.
That's me trying to work with
Yeah,
you.
no, I got you. Yeah.
And bring in different ideas. But see, if you go down the path of C and start to foreclose because of the specials, that changes the whole game.
Mhm.
Because you got to force guys like him or people that owe money.
Right,
you got
because
to
there's
force
lots
their
of folks.
hand.
There's a lot of folks out there, and to my point earlier, we've not taken that sort of zero tolerance. How
Well,
long am I going
start.
to let you sit on something before I realize?
A decade.
Right. Well,
Now it's been a
shit, and
decade.
there's more in some properties around town.
And
But yeah,
the longer I'm sober, I see things, they're glaring.
Yeah.
Speaking of decades.
no, I do not. I don't disagree. It's just
But
figuring out that path.
But it's, I mean, I hate the idea of lawsuits because you think of, but sometimes that's what you have to do.
You know me, I'm a lawyer's kid. Sometimes I laugh with our staff. I'm like, let them sue us. Sometimes you just got to do it to find a resolution. Sometimes I need a judge to tell me if I'm wrong or they're wrong, and then we'll figure it out after that, right?
But Plan C brings Jim to the table in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But okay, well, that was
No,
actually a really good,
that was
good,
helpful.
healthy talk.
Right.
Yeah.
See, I will sometimes agree, and then if I don't, I'll
You
tell
don't
you
have
why.
to agree.
No, but it gives me something to think about that I had not looked at. From that
I
perspective.
didn't. What I wanted to, so I've known you for so long that I wanted, and I think that there's a real, just the fact that you're a city council person, there's a real part of your soul that's reasonable, that has a lot of
Hope
common
so.
sense.
I hope so.
Common sense. And so I wanted the viewers to be, number one, have a chance to weigh in and prove that we can have a discussion civilly.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I think I can. I try. I've learned you got to set realistic expectations with people. I think sometimes people box themselves in when they're elected. They like to sit in a room, and it's easier to agree. And then when you leave later, be like, I may not really agree. You got to tell them right up. I'm not on that path. Let's figure out where we can be. And that gets you in trouble. And there's some things I can't fix. We haven't talked about it, but sometimes I get calls, and I have to be honest with people. I can't fix that. I can point you in the direction of people who can, but the city can't help you with that, right? And that's tough for people to hear too. Well, you're a city councilman. Yeah, I'm not a king. I'm not. The city only has certain things, so you got to set those expectations.
So do you think it's time to rethink how we do stuff in the community?
Yeah, but I think that's issue to issue to some degree. I mean, back to your question, which we got into about the form of government.
The consolidation.
I think a mayor can bring a lot to the table if they really, under our form of government, a mayor can be very aggressive and bring a lot of things forward. And so I think sometimes that
well,
doesn't
it's a
get taken
Jetto vote.
Yeah, well, but I just think even to the council, why aren't we doing this? The mayor's in the building every day, communicating with the city manager on a regular basis. Hopefully, and I think Padilla's done a decent job of this, especially with our new one, is saying, that's not a good idea, that's not going to fly, let me tell you what is, let's work this through before you just drop it on the table, right? And so I think mayor has a really important role in that, and how things then eventually get crafted within City Hall, which then goes, how are we doing things throughout the entire city? And I think a mayor does have an influence on that.
But not so much the city, because we've outgrown our form of government, I feel, with the county and the city. What I think the county people, what I found that the county people hate is the city pulling the county down.
Right.
And so I've been talking out loud about ways to consolidate. I think the sheriff ought to be a Jetto vote because I think that security with so many people, the way, with so many people that over the last several years have come across the border, I don't think we really know who's in our town or in
Yeah.
our country.
Right.
Have you ever talked? Do you know Brian Hill?
We've talked a few times. We don't know each other well, just because we don't cross path. We
Well,
haven't-
he's got the most awesome security system that the city and county work together on is the camera system.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm going to get a camera system for either here or for the Republican office, to where you buy a little piece of hardware like that.
Yeah, and then
It's like $350, and then you can hook 4 cameras into that, and it's like $75 a year subscription.
Yeah, and
But then
everything's
you're tied
recorded.
in to the cities.
Yeah.
Have you been down to the
Oh, I've been down
law
there.
enforcement?
I will tell you
Isn't that cool?
when I first got elected, that's the first time I'd ever been down there. And what I tell people today is there's a lot more cameras watching you in this city than you have any idea.
And that's good.
I'm just saying.
No,
I don't think people know that.
I look at
Unless
it
people
so
have
differently.
seen that, I know, but unless people have seen that, I don't think they realize how many cameras are in this city.
So I mean, it's probably
And I'm
like,
not sure if we're supposed to tell people or not,
Well, what
but I
does it
tell
matter?
people everything. So it
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
well, you
I'm
can
just-
tell.
no, I'm
I
just-
say anything. So I think there's like last count 815 from the public side, and like 300 and some from the.
from the private that
private.
hooked in, yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to Klossman about it. He owns a building across the street, and I said,
Oh,
Jim,
yeah.
Jimbo, you want me to point a camera over there? And he
Yeah.
goes, sure. He goes, I'll pay for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
But and to me, it's security.
Right.
And so we ought to be, besides asking people to voluntarily pay property tax, we ought to be asking people to sign up for the private side of that camera system.
Yeah, and even this department has a thing where you can register your Ring doorbell, or it doesn't give us the right to access it. We still gotta
No,
get
you-
your permission, or if you don't want to give it to us, we still gotta get a warrant. But I tell people, sign up for that program, because then if they know someone came down your block, they can at least know, well, there's 2 houses there, they might give us access. Let's go
But
ask.
when you get it, like, you can also, like, if I get the camera system, and I could put a camera in here, but I can say you can only look at it in time of emergency.
Yeah, right. So, but
Or look at it all the time.
right. So yeah, so we encourage people to sign up for that, and I think some have, maybe some haven't. A lot
But
haven't.
what a better alternative. Now you're hooked into the system.
Yeah.
You're part of the system, and that's good.
Yeah.
All right, what else? What else do you want to talk about? My brain's everywhere.
Well,
Well, I do. There's a couple of things I still want to say. But
Go for it.
How you doing on energy?
Energy?
Yeah, your energy level.
My energy?
Yeah,
Personal?
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
fine.
Okay,
I got
good.
more energy than I need.
So why didn't you counteroffer the $7.6 million offer on the hotel?
From you?
Yeah, for
Okay.
my group.
Okay. Come
And-
on, man. Let's be honest about it. Is it true that you sent us an email with an offer? Yes. And if I'm wrong about what I'm about to say, you tell me and I'll
Okay.
take it.
Good.
But we have a formal process that everybody who's supposed to make a real offer is supposed to follow. And to my knowledge, that offer never went through that process.
Henry McClure not following a process.
If I'm wrong, you tell me.
No, you're not wrong.
But we do have and it's still open. You can still submit it. Maybe it's passed, and that's fine. Let me talk about the hotel real quick, and I won't eat up a bunch of time on this.
No, that's okay.
There's
I know you don't want it.
No, oh no.
Okay, so
Can I tell you something?
yes, sir.
We bought that hotel, and then I was up for re-election. And every door I knocked on almost asked me about it. And I answered every question and talked everybody through it. And 9 times out of 10, they still looked at me and said, I wish you hadn't do it, but I understand where your head was at. Now sell the damn thing. And that's cool. I will say, one of the issues we had as the county commission had some issues with assisting us at times with that. Part of it was, well, we have an election coming up. And I told them, I said, I did too. And I survived it, and you knocked on every door, and you answer the question, and then let people decide if they want to vote for you after you explain it to them, right? So I will say I have no problem talking about it. There's 3 quick things I'll touch on the hotel. I don't run from any vote I've ever taken, because that's a chicken shit way to be a politician. All right, I want to make that very clear.
Okay.
I will tell you, if you ask me in my 6 years now on the council, if I regret any vote, that might be the one. But I'm not taking it back. And the reason I say that is I'm not going to rehash the city manager that we got rid of situation, but we got some different information after he was gone than we got when he was here. We got some different information after the fact. We thought there was going to be some involvement from our partners at the county that fell through at the last minute, right? There were some variables that looked solid at the time that in retrospect, had I had the full picture, I may have taken a different vote. But I'm going to caveat again with I don't run from any vote, and I voted for it, and here we are, all right? So let me stand by that. But the second piece is I have always said from day one, I don't want to own this thing long term. I am never going to take a vote that spends the 12 to 16 million dollars that may be needed for renovations to use taxpayer dollars to do that. And we were going to turnkey this thing. And you know how this process works. So as well as anybody, we had an auction that it was in receivership. They put it in an auction, and I'm telling you, they told us who the other 5 people were in the auction, and they were all terrible. They were people who like.
Okay, how did they do that? That usually never happens.
Because I think how it happened, whether it was supposed to or not, was we had someone who claimed they were interested in buying the property at the time. So before the auction started, we actually went to the bank and said, don't even put this out to auction. We can help you facilitate this sale right now for the price you want with this person. All right. And so in that process, I think they disclosed stuff. And then that deal just didn't happen before they were ready to put it in the auction because they had a judge involved, the bank involved, it was receivership. So I don't know if we were supposed to know that or not because maybe the only real estate auction I've ever been involved in, right? So we saw the list, and they were all to a group, out-of-state corporations who have a history of buying up properties because they're part of a portfolio, eating those properties inward to make every dollar for the portfolio,
right?
And then abandoning your town and you're
like the guy that owned the mall before.
He was one of the 5.
No, I know that.
And so when I looked at that, I said, okay. And part of the problem was because it was a bank who had to get rid of it in this auction.
Why didn't we just tell everybody this in the beginning?
Well, I don't know. We should have. I was telling people.
Because you got Matt Pavarnak running around going, well, we got to make sure the right people buy this.
Right.
And that just doesn't sound right.
I agree with you. Because to me, the only right person is just someone who actually knows how to run a hotel. And
right.
None of those 5 groups were in the hotel business.
Okay, so number one, I didn't follow the rules.
Well,
now keep going. Now keep going.
Well,
the
last piece of the purchase is, I'll tell you, because they expedited the process because they had a receivership and a judge, and they didn't give what I would call the right people, if that's the stupid term we're going to use for the moment, all right? Hotel people time to do what they do, their due diligence. Come in and look at the property, make an offer, assess the value of it. They just said, we're putting it out. So none of those people jumped in because they weren't able to do that piece of it, right?
Okay.
So we buy it. We've got it. Our goal has been to let those groups now do their due diligence, make these offers to us. I can tell you one of 2 things is going to happen. I can tell you some of the offers we have on the table right now, if we can make one of them work, will pay back the citizens for the money we've put into that facility. But
that's not the one with the grant, is it?
The grant.
The grant guy says I'll give you 15 million, but you got to give me a grant for 15 million.
No, because we're not doing that.
Okay.
No. There's no scenario.
I
wouldn't vote for that.
God bless him on that one.
I wouldn't vote for that. Worst case scenario from my perspective is if we get towards middle of this year and those deals for whatever reason fall through, although I really am optimistic, we're going to get rid of it because at some point you just have to say we tried, we thought this was the right decision, but to our point earlier, we have to get out of this deal.
Right.
And so we're going to sell it, recoup as much as we can, and now let the free market decide if it should. And if the county wants to get more involved in the next phase of the process, God bless them. Great. Let them do that. So I hope so, because me and Neil Dobler and Michelle Hofer have all been already saying we will not own this hotel in 2026. And as we work on our 26 budget, we have told staff there's no reason to include any money for the hotel in our next budget because we ain't going to own it. And if that means I got to go take whatever the best offer left is and say, good, I'm out. Okay, I hope that's not what happens because I truly do think we cannot be a capital city without a legitimate conference center. That is not good for Topeka.
So does Cody have a conference center with the Cyrus?
It's not big enough.
Okay.
We have
Okay,
lots.
that was a
Like a
question.
big statewide conference who wants to bring 400 people here, plus have a whole
Right.
uh,
Hey,
place
speaking of that,
exhibitor space. We're
have-
the only facility who can do that.
have you seen the plan that's the county did that says exactly that? How, hey, you need to take the properties around you and put them all under one ownership. Have you seen that plan?
I haven't seen that plan.
Okay.
Didn't know
So
that was
Bill Rapon took me down to meet with Kaylin, right?
Mhm.
And we're talking, and through that meeting, what
Do
do
you
you
have a
look?
Kleenex?
Yeah.
Nose.
Yeah, let me help you out. Give me a second.
Give me
Hey,
a-
tell people who you are and why you're here.
Do a little dance. I am Spencer Duncan. I am a native Topekawan. Went to McEachern, went to French Middle School, went to Topeka West High School, went to KU, journalism degrees, undergrad. I got a journalism degree and a communications or English degree. I do have a master's in business administration. Let's see. I have owned many businesses. I was a retail liquor store owner in Lawrence, Kansas. Owned the store there. It was pretty successful. Got my real estate guy tried to screw me a little, so we left. It wasn't Henry, so it's all good.
Okay, give me a second.
So then my brother and I also ran a wine and beer garden for 15 years at the Kansas State Fair, which was very successful. COVID. Yeah, COVID hit, so we got out of the state fair business. And then currently my wife is a partner in a company here in town called Clayton Wealth Partners. She's a partner. We're an owner in that business. So financial planner, one of only two what they call fee-only groups here in the state of Kansas. So I do tell people the business community matters to me. I am a business owner. We are business owners. I owned my own government affairs company for 17 years before I came over and worked for the League. Represent a lot of folks, alcohol interests, among the many of them. Pest control, I was their executive director of the Statewide Pest Control Association for 13 years, statewide recycling. So I've worked a lot with the business community out there, and so I do understand the needs and the importance of supporting them. I do understand economic development and the importance of growing our community. I really do try to look through everything as, will this grow Topeka? Will it bring people here to visit? Will it bring people here to live? And will it keep people in my city? I try to look at a lot of the policies that I pass or support through that lens, if that gives you an idea of my thought processes.
Hey, if you need to take a pause for the cause, I walked by that.
No.
I saw that urinal and I said, well, I'm going to take a break.
Yeah,
We've been pumping down. You know, Dr. Gundry says to drink the San Pellegrino water.
It's good water.
Yeah, it is. It's better in glass, he says.
Oh, that's
So
not as recyclable.
we're here at the Glass Houses studio, part of the Ryan Mowinkle empire of real estate. And we're talking with Ryan Duncan.
No, Spencer, but that's cool.
Spencer Duncan. Sorry about that.
Ryan's the brother. It's fine.
I've known these guys for
Yeah,
so long.
forever.
I get a little pass.
So there's my spiel on the hotel. But I have really tried to keep to my original promise that I'm not spending a ton of money on it, and I'm gonna do my best to sell it, get some return on investment, and get it.
Why
viable.
couldn't you have said, or did anybody ever say that about knowing the 5 people?
I did after. Yeah, in fact, I think I'll have to go back and look. Hopefully I saved it. I did put something from the last year. We've owned it for 15 months, so 2 years ago we bought it, I guess. Or I know for a while on my website, I'd even posted it under my FAQs. Why did you buy the hotel was my question, and I've amended that because some time has gone by. But it was on there for a while. I did say
where is your website?
it's duncanfortopeka.com.
Okay.
So DUNCANFOR.
So let's put it at the bottom of this show.
Okay. Yeah, go check it out. But I think I just changed that and took that off of there. But yeah, I did. And when I was walking doors, that's what everything I'm telling you, I've told people, you know, that was one of the things that swayed me.
Well, that changes
in that direction because I was very afraid of them gutting it, selling off the parts, and then we're left with this giant building that then nobody. Right now, the bones are still good, and there's something to start from to renovate it. I was very afraid, right or wrong, that if we let that happen, we're starting over and it's empty. I mean, and again, right or wrong, the county had just spent at that time $50 million of taxpayer money to renovate that whole facility. And so not helping the cause by letting that building die while $50 million of taxpayer money had just been put into the other side of it, seemed irresponsible for me as someone who's been charged with how can we help economic development. And to me, bringing people to those events, we do have a handful of events that if we don't have a hotel there, they're not coming to that event center. The Demo Derby, the Kansas Kids Wrestling, the State High School. I mean, if the minute you tell them there's no hotel, they're not coming. And I will tell you that there are a lot of businesses in this community, restaurants, other hotels who will tell you they can't. That's a lot of money out of their pocket.
Hey, are you on the board now of that?
Of
The
Stormont
Stormont
Vale,
Vale?
I am.
So did you fire the company that was managing it for you?
Of the hotel?
Yeah.
Well, they're two separate. So the
No. Just the.
of the Stormont Vale Event
Yeah.
Center. No, well, the county gets to make that decision. The advisory board just advises, and I go to my commissioner saying, why are we doing this? That doesn't sound right.
Who's
We're in
your
the
commissioner?
meetings. My commissioner is Mays. I was originally, years ago, I was appointed by Cook. Before I was a councilman, I served for a little while, then was off it, and then the mayor's reappointed me back because he says, you have a history with it. Go, you know some stuff. Go
Yeah.
see what you can help over there. Yeah.
Well, I think, right, wrong, or indifferent, the fact that you made an educated mistake
I'm
changes things.
I am perfectly happy with people saying to me, I can't believe you did that. I totally disagree. What were you thinking? I just like the opportunity to say, you can disagree with me, but I want you to know what my thought process was. And then that's all I can do. This was my thought process. It seemed like a good idea at the time. All I can do once those decisions are made is course correct as quickly as we can and make sure we make the right decisions now.
So how did Henry McClure get involved? Doug Bassett called me up. Susan Loeffler had the proposal, her client, and they said, would you look this over and would you help us out? So we called the consultant. And basically the consultant call was embarrassing. They were flippant. They were kind of dismissive. It was not a pleasant call.
Yeah.
And I said, well, now I know why you made $450,000 because you don't have to be nice to a guy like me. And so that call didn't go well. Hey, I'm running a little late, but I'm heading your way. That's okay. It's okay. I'll call you right back. All right. I got Agape Village actually is selling some land to a home builder.
Oh, good. We need homes.
Yeah.
Build homes. I'm actually working. I've made this year, my goal this year is to really focus on housing development and see what other cities are doing to help with reducing costs, new incentives that we can do to help lower the price of houses. For instance, we have a map of depressed neighborhoods, right? The economically challenged neighborhoods. I don't know why we shouldn't make anybody, but I don't know why we're making those people pay $3,500 to put in a water meter that they're then going to pay for long term, right? That's $3,500 less to help renovate a home. So things like that.
No,
I just want you to know that's my goal this year. Is I think housing
if you could give the developer the income off of the sewer, we could change. We shouldn't need to do a benefit district as much as we should get the benefit of the district.
Yeah. So if anyone out there has great ideas for housing incentives and building incentives, let me know.
Because I could finance.
I'm gonna try to bring a lot of that to the council this year.
I could finance a sewer line if I got the income from it.
Oh, sure.
So I could take that out.
I gotta put a new sewer line in my house. That's gonna be great, but it's a whole nother issue.
Okay, so real quick.
Yes, I know you're running out of time. So what other issues, or if you want to
No,
finish the
I
hotel,
just want
let's go for it.
I just want to finish the consultant.
Yeah, okay.
What did they do for $540,000?
Well, they did the one piece. They did two pieces that were beneficial. Now, whether we paid too much, totally fine. I'm happy to have it. But they did do a full-on, bottom-to-top assessment of the property itself. Every bolt, every latch, every key, every door, what needs replaced, what's outdated, what's old, what's going to break on us, right? That hadn't been done in a long time.
Broker will do that to you for free to get the commission.
I hear you.
With an exclusive right to sell.
I hear you.
That, hey, look, you ain't getting out of it because I'm going to do all this up front.
Yeah. And then the second piece was they put together the financial package that showed the financial history of the hotel. If you brand it these separate brands, what that would cost, and then what incentives, if you can work it right, makes that a profitable hotel for the next person who purchases it. So if you want to know what they did, those are the two pieces they did.
Okay, but just
We
remember,
may have overpaid, and that's
a
totally
broker-
legitimate, but
a broker would have done that for the right to get the commission.
gotcha.
So, why did the form not get filled out? Because after we talked to the,
I wasn't criticizing you. I was just
No.
letting you know.
but it's a fair thing.
Yeah.
You know, play by the rules. But after we were so dismissed by the way the consultant treated us, it got out of my hands. I was just there as the unpaid consultant.
Right.
You know, hey, would you get us involved? Would you get involved and look at this? What I liked about the guy was his financial statement. I looked at his financial statement and I'm going, well, I want to develop for that guy.
Yeah.
OPM, baby, other people's money. He's got
Right.
he's got legs. And I talked to him the other day, and he said, "Well, I think some time has gone by that he might look at it, but it's really not my client."
Yeah.
You know,
But can I tell you, that's a really good example of what I tell people all the time. Because I will get a call that says, "I can't believe you've let this happen." And the first thing sometimes I say is, "What are you talking about?" There's an assumption, I think, out there with just me and other council members that we already know the problem. And what I remind everybody is, I would rather you be the third or fourth call I get than assuming I've already gotten that call. And there are times like that, I had no idea we were having those issues with our broker. Like, I have no feedback prior to this conversation that maybe they were not being as personable, amenable, and working with folks.
I
like
know
they
you're
should
busy,
have.
but you can tune into the show.
Well, you're right. But you understand my point is, I tell everyone out there, don't assume I already know what's going on. Call me. And if you're the fourth person, great. It actually helps me build the case. But if you're not and you're the first person,
Well, you do answer the phone.
now I know the problem. And so and I think other council members don't make those assumptions.
Okay, so I'm going to close this on one last topic.
Yep.
Why are we giving Cody Foster all that money for the AT&T building?
Okay. Two pieces. And I didn't even know until we had that conversation that Cody I'd forgotten he'd owned the AT&T building, to be honest, that's fine. He owns a lot of stuff. I'll tell you this about Cody. He is one of the few people who does what he says, right? He buys it, he builds it. He tells us he's going to build a restaurant, he builds a restaurant. He doesn't sit on everything for 10 years. Okay, he deserves that credit. Because there's others.
That's why you deal
who
with
don't
him.
Right, because we at least know he's going to see it through. And
If you look at that board, there's a lot of rich people on there. That's why you deal with rich people.
Right, but we needed a second spot than the Wolf's Camera place.
Well, why?
Okay, so
Have you talked to the guy that was?
the BioReality?
Yeah, have you talked to him?
Not since the last time, but
Okay,
but
I
here's-
talked to him the other day.
Great. Here's my problem with that, Henry. Though, we spent years working with them, no movement, and one of the things they would come to the Jetto and say was, "Well, we've got to get leases to make this work." Here's the problem with that. It's a chicken and an egg problem. Most of the people who are going to use that lab space get grants, and they're timed. You got 18 months, and they don't know when they're going to get the grant.
No, I understand all
right.
that.
So using that as an excuse to not move forward on the project got very frustrating.
Well, why didn't you just roll your money into that deal? He tells me that Molly was responsible for the leasing.
Of their property?
Yeah.
Right, but the new deal they sent, which I don't know if you've seen it, my problem with now that they see we're moving on to another model, they're willing to make some, what they call concessions. But here's why I don't like it. We need an innovation center. I don't need a mixed use, I'll tell you that in a second, but I don't need a mixed use retail loft with a little bit of lab space. I need lab space.
Is it going to grow the population?
I believe it can. I believe if nothing else, it's going to help businesses develop in Topeka, who then will consider and we can convince to stay in Topeka.
Is it
instead
going to
of
broaden the tax
move
base?
out of here if those businesses stay in Topeka.
Okay, but why? Here's my saying is, if this was such a good idea, why isn't Cody funding it?
Well, because it's not what he does. He's not an innovation center guy. He owns properties and he
Well,
wants.
that's
to
what
lease. He wants
landlords
a
do.
lease. Well, but he just, I mean,
No, landlords put up capital all day long for good deals. I mean, some days, do you think that Victoria's Secret came here without getting a turnkey store?
well, they probably didn't.
Man, I'm telling you, I know the Vicky's Secret guy. We can call him. But look, you put up in the real world without using government funds. If that was such a good idea, it'd stand on its own. Cody should put up the money because he's going to get a return on his investment. A guy like Cody shouldn't be living off the taxpayer money. That's my saying. That's what I say.
We were going to pay somebody, though, to rent
No,
the
we don't.
space.
No, we don't. We don't have to do it at all.
Well, that's a different issue, though. I think after one thing we got out of years of doing the studies and the analysis and the work with BioRealty was an assessment that this area needs that. It'll get used. And I believe all of that data that I've seen that says if I do believe in this case, if we build it, we will fill it.
No, because look, I'm gonna wind this down because this is like we're arguing.
No, that's
little.
good. We're disagreeing.
Okay, but if that were true, then downtown would flourish. We built it and they didn't come. I bought into the whole downtown. I moved downtown,
we have some,
not just to run against Cook.
We have some property owners, as you know, who have been sitting on large chunks of downtown and not moving forward with development that I think's hindered those efforts.
And that's why you go with Plan C out there.
I'm not going to disagree with you on
Okay, because this is my point as a developer. If you keep giving these guys concessions, there's no room for the little guy to get in. And what we really need to do, I was really concerned about the Braxton being down there the other day about the shortfall in the properties that were voted on for the sales tax of 16.5 million. And so what I'm saying is if we just took all the money away from, and I'm really concerned about non-elected officials. It's like, and I'm asking you for this, if you have it. Do you have a copy, or were you in the meeting when the board of Go Topeka approved the deal to go to Cody Foster's building?
No, I didn't see it before. And
But
was
I
not in
want
that
those
meeting.
notes.
Yeah, no, I wasn't there.
So
I don't go to the Go Topeka.
I'm going to make a core request to you first,
Okay.
because you ought to read those notes.
Yeah.
You ought to read them, but
Yeah, because I know it was not unanimous.
no, but too many people, non-elected officials, are controlling. So you got Cook and Padilla up there in the board meeting, and the public's not invited. And that's not transparent.
We can end on this. Some information you'll find
Yes, sir.
interesting. So I asked the other night about our Jetto contract because
I
I thought
saw
it was,
you.
I
I got
thought
it.
it was coming to a close because I think we need to make some adjustments and changes in it. The feedback I got, and this is going to be interesting, is that at some point 8 years ago, they went to a 3-year rolling contract. It automatically renews every 3 years. Here's the problem with that. I don't believe you can bind future governing bodies to a rolling contract. In fact, I think there's some case law and some even AG's opinions. You can, in other words, you can lock into a 10-year deal because it has an end date, and then another governing body can make adjustments at that time. I'm not sure we can have a rolling contract, and I'm going to look into that because
Well, no, here's what we really got to
that
look
needs to
at.
be,
When does the
tweaked.
existing sales tax sunset?
I think 31. I think I'll double check that.
I
think it's
shorter
2031.
than that.
And maybe it is. Well, maybe it's 29. It's 5 years, I think, or 4 or 5 years. Because
But-
remember, it was a 10-year deal, or it might have been a 12. It was 10-year. First one was
And
12.
look, part of this is personal because I feel that Go Topeka is in the commercial real estate business.
Well, I've been shouting for years, and every time almost every Jetto meeting, I've made comments about this I've been on last year, and I was on it 3 years ago. I don't think we put enough dollars into the small business program, and I think the dollars we do put into what I call the real small business program go more towards overhead than on the ground. And I've been screaming about that.
Well,
The one success I've had in that is they did raise the amount of money into that program, which I felt good about, but it wasn't enough. And I think we need to do a better shift towards investing those dollars into actual small business owners in the community as opposed to the big get.
and the people that try to get that money, they say, well, what they do is they keep doing these gifts to the guy they gave the money to
Mm.
before they win these contests. So what they're doing is they keep funding their own mistake. And so, well, anyway.
We may not agree on that, but I do hear your base concern. I get you.
But not everybody's willing to come as forward as I am.
Yeah.
So what I'm concerned about, so this is what will happen, is now Go Topeka now will administer grants to people to take their lab space. And it just becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because then
I
that
hope
way they
not.
can't lose.
I won't support that.
That is what happened with the small business.
And I hear you, but I will say the model they've put forward that's not the model they've put forward, and I will definitely watch for that because I wouldn't support that model. It's got to self-sustain itself after that first 18 months.
And it should have self-sustained itself from, if it was a great idea, private enterprise should step in and do it. If private enterprise doesn't want to fund it, government maybe ought to step back.
Well, they did, but here's the irony of what you said. It's amazing to me how much wants to do a lot of stuff in this community with government money that they're going to make a lot of money off of, but it's not going to have the same return back to the taxpayers, right? They want to take government money because they know it's going to be profitable, but they want to take most of those profits. They don't want to actually return as much of those dollars that they've taken out of the community back into the community. I'm not saying that was a reason to do this, but I'm always very wary of, if I'm going to give you money as a private entity who wants government out of your life, which I get, let's much as we can pull back, but there can't be no strings attached. I want return on investment. I want you to invest in the community, and I want you to have some answerables to us as taxpayers if you're going to take taxpayer dollars. It's real easy to build something with taxpayer dollars that you know is going to be profitable.
So we'll watch this, but I'm telling you, it was a huge mistake, and it's worse than the hotel because it doesn't pass the smell test. I don't care how many nice things the guy's done for the community. You're going to hear a giant sucking sound about the funds, and we shouldn't be just enabling.
Well, I'm going to ask my colleagues tonight to revote me to Jetto, and I will, if they elect me.
I hope you do.
Even if they don't elect me, I still go to the meetings. But if I have the voting so that I can watch over your concerns. I mean that sincerely.
Well, I'm watching over it.
I know, but I mean, but if I have a vote, I can vote no on some stuff.
But think about it. The incoming chairman of Go Topeka works for the Cyrus.
Who is I didn't even know who the incoming chairman was. Is it?
Whoever, some girl that works for the Cyrus.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know that. So.
Well, pretty soon we're going to have all the Go Topeka members up here on the board.
Well, for what it's worth, they'll tell you that I say no to them as much as anybody, and they're. I'll support things I think will work because we'll see how the innovation. But I've told them no a lot.
This is not okay. I appreciate you coming in here.
Yep.
And anytime you need to use the studio,
anytime you want me back to follow up on anything,
man, this is great.
Just invite me.
I think we had a great conversation.
I think so too.
I think this was the tip of the iceberg.
Yep. As I tell everybody, it's okay to disagree, and sometimes I will see your perspective and fix it, and other times I'll just tell you why I disagree, and we'll keep having the conversation.
Well, I could continue to talk, but
I can talk too long too. That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's my wife.
Well, hey, we've had Spencer Duncan here in the Glass Houses studio. This has been a good back and forth. I wish more people would have called in, but I'm live.
They'll watch it later. Let me end with this. My website was duncanfortopeka.com. You can find me all over social media. I'm on every platform at Spencer L. Duncan, whether it's X, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Truth Social, whether it's Threads, whether it's Instagram. I'm everywhere. And I even have a phone number, 785-207-8985, 207-8985.
And what's your email at the city?
My city email is sduncan@topeka.org, or you can do duncanfortopeka@yahoo.com. It's on the website.
All right, we're live, and we're going to say sayonara.
See you later.
Good night. Good day.
Whatever.